Morning, everyone. How are we doing? Hope everyone's having a nice morning. I'll wait another couple seconds before we get a couple of people in the room, and we will kick off now in just in a second. Um, all good, audio and video. Hope y'all can hear me okay. See my screen? Okay, we'll kick into it. So we have quite a bit to go through today. I'll try to keep it as close to 45 minutes as we can, so that we can get some time back. But let's kick into it anyways. So, the e-commerce playbook. What is your next move? I suppose just a quick kind of overview of what we're going to go through today, just to help kind of guide it. What I will say is just a few kind of, let's say, housekeeping bits. We probably won't take any questions like immediately on the call. We won't do like a time for questions at the end. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat by all means, and we'll get back to you directly via email. And of course, sure, just drop me an email. If you'd like to, my email is brad@studio49.com. Um, as you might have seen in the kind of invitation for the webinar, those who stay on to the very end will automatically be entered into a draw to win a 2-hour strategy session with our company director, Jer, typically worth about €500. So it's worth your while to kind of stick around. Also, as a follow-up, you will get a copy of the deck and a recording, so there's no need to be writing out any furious notes or anything like that. So sit back, relax, and maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee because you're going to need it for this stuff. So the actual content itself. So the way I've kind of done this today is broken it into three different tracks based on where you might be on your e-commerce journey. Hopefully, you will kind of resonate with one of those tracks, the kind of pain points that are in those kind of tracks. Hopefully, I'll provide as much as I can, like relevant top tips and quick wins, which you can do this week, this month, without any major kind of technical intervention, and hopefully connect to what the next step might be based on where you're at. Um, as a part of the handout as well, you'll get some free resources as well, which we'll go through in a little bit more detail. So just to kick off, I'll do as little showing off as I can about Studio 49, but I suppose the main 2 points I want to get across is that we're Ireland's leading retail e-commerce agency. So heavily, when it comes to our clients, retail is our focus. Now, I do want to say that we by no means are exclusive to retail. We deal with B2B businesses, direct to consumer businesses, enterprise business all the time. But as you can see from the logos on the right, retail e-commerce is our bread and butter. Second to that, our mission is to be the most transformative partner in Irish retail e-commerce. Now that sounds like a bunch of waffle, but what it really means is typically when it comes to development agencies, they're seen as a kind of a cost line in the P&L. Our hope is to be an investment partner, and we see that time and time again with our clients. The clients of ours that invest regularly on a regular basis in e-commerce, be that marketing, be that migrations with us, account management, roadmaps, all of that. We're seeing like actual real results when it comes to year-on-year growth for our clients. So that's it. That's the last of the kind of showing off you should hear from us with regards to Studio 49. I'll actually get into some good content. There's a few things that we do as well in Studio 49 that won't be discussed today that might be kind of slightly related. So the first thing is business strategy. So based on your track, you might find actually I'm completely bewildered and I have no idea what the next step is. And it's a more holistic kind of sense of bewilderment, whereby you might need just an overall sense of direction in your business. We do offer business strategy workshops, which kind of lead directly into that need. So that's something that we have, but we won't be really talking about it in much detail today. Similarly, performance marketing, we have a full performance marketing team, paid social, email, paid search, SEO, like I said, account managers and roadmap, and we integrate any system to any other system through our proprietary middleware called Orchestra. So those are things we do have, but we're just not going to be talking about them for the rest of the webinar. I wanted to really connect before we get into the tracks themselves. I wanted to connect where possible into exactly the kinds of people this session is for, and without being too prescriptive, just to give a general sense of the kinds of clients and kinds of businesses we deal with. So, small, medium, and large retailers, as you can see here, are kind of the key people that this session is for. When you say small retailers, again, don't want to come across as too prescriptive, but generally speaking, online isn't a massive focus. It's kind of there. You might have a site. Typically, it's a single store. It's owner-led, owner-operated. You might not have a digital team at all, or you might have someone who's on the shop floor who also doubles up as your marketing person. That being said, there's plenty of owner-operated single store businesses that are making millions online, so don't be too prescriptive. But with that said, we also deal a lot with medium retailers, 500 to 2 million online-ish. A couple of stores, they have some kind of like local or regional footprint. They might already be on a better platform, such as Shopify, but maybe growth has stalled. Similarly, with large retailers, these are the ones that typically have like a large national footprint. They probably have had the infrastructure in the first place with regards to stores. They probably have an established digital team and are kind of doing everything quote unquote right by the books, but still not really seeing what the next step is for growth. And of course, if you are an enterprise or if you're in B2B or selling direct to consumer, there is hopefully a lot that you can get out of today. So these are the kind of tracks that we're going to be focusing on today. And my aim with the webinar overall is to not bore specific people who aren't in a track. I'm trying to do it as kind of in tandem as possible. So the first being migration, the second being redesign or retheme, and the third being optimize. So to start, I'll just go through some kind of common pain points that we see on a regular basis with these kinds of tracks. And I'll try not to be too repetitive. But basically, when it comes to migration, the main pain point here is that you're not on Shopify. That is the kind of pain point. And I don't want to go crazy into so much detail about how great Shopify is, blah blah blah. I'm sure you've heard it. But genuinely, when it comes to platform, if you're not on Shopify, you're probably already behind. And that is just the reality that we see on a daily basis. I want to preface this by saying two things. I'm not paid to plug Shopify, and we're not a Shopify exclusive agency by no means. We are what we call platform agnostic, meaning that we recommend a platform to our clients which we think will give them the absolute best service. And time again, Shopify has been that platform. What you find is when you're not on Shopify, typically speaking, there's often two areas. You're either on another kind of hosted or plugin based platform, such as WooCommerce, WordPress, or you might be on an entirely custom setup, which is maybe agency led, like your web development agency built the site, and they're the ones that you rely on to basically keep it alive, or you're maybe on some kind of legacy platform. But all in all, across all of those three scenarios, performance is probably a big issue in that the performance of the site in terms of conversion, you're probably not reaching the goals that you want to, and performance in terms of the front end, in terms of page speed and all of that. Ownership is a big one as well when it comes to like non-Shopify e-com sites. We see this all the time where they say like it takes me 2 weeks to get a banner changed on the front end. Things that just are like a non-issue on a Shopify store. So these are the kind of pain points that we see all the time. There's plenty others, but we'll hopefully address those in the coming slides. The middle track, redesign or retheme. Typically speaking, what I'm referring to here are people who are on Shopify and have been on Shopify for a couple of years. They might have even replatformed or built a Shopify store pre like the kind of pandemic boom or right around the same time. But if you think 2020 was 5 years ago, so there's a good chance if you kind of made your Shopify store then and haven't updated it since, you're going to be in this track. There's also a good chance if you're in this case that you're on a 1.0 theme. So I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. The next one is apps. You might be sitting on 25,000 apps that you never use. Every app that you add to a Shopify store adds JavaScript to the front end, which is going to slow down it. So it might feel slow, which is kind of the next piece. It's definitely see this across kind of like older Shopify stores where there's many things on the site that maybe aren't really speaking to each other. Lots of kind of JavaScript. You can tell images maybe aren't optimized in the best way, and the front end can feel a little bit slow. One thing as well, I'll say this as well, just like the overall journey and the overall feature kind of list on a Shopify site that is in this kind of track. I find is often you can see it's kind of patchy. It's a bit of a patchwork of either people have changed hands, teams have moved, or someone has left the business, and features have been added to the site, kind of not considering the overall holistic view. So we see that all the time. The final track here is optimize, which is kind of the, I say, the step up from the middle track, which is you are doing everything right. What I hear all the time is we've done everything, but we're still not getting the growth what we want. If you're saying that to yourself on a regular basis, then this is the track for you. Typically speaking, you're doing everything really well by the book. You probably have a really strong team. You're probably doing really good marketing. And what you're looking for are those 1 to 5% gains. Typically speaking, as well, in terms of overall business focus, digital, you're settled in digital in terms of the website, and the other digital projects are things like loyalty, a mobile app, omni-channel work. So these are the kind of more mature businesses, or just businesses who really focused in on e-commerce as a channel. Typically speaking, the best thing to do here is look into CRO. So we'll do that in a little bit more detail now. So to start, we've got the migration track. And again, um, basically the reason to migrate is honestly so compelling. I find it hard when people struggle to know why they should migrate. I know there can be blockers, and we'll go through that in a second, but this to me is the main thing. What happens on kind of older legacy platforms are if you have a dev budget, whatever that might be, or some kind of maintenance budget, you're going to be spending all of that just to keep a site alive. If you imagine for context, I'll give WooCommerce as an example, which is WordPress, WooCommerce. They're basically interchangeable. Um, it's quote unquote free, but you still have to pay for upgrades. You have to pay for the hosting separately. You have to pay for your SSL certs, etc., etc. And those, what's funny to me is that it seems free, and those costs are kind of fractured. So they're kind of spread out across your business. And it's kind of hard to see the singular view. But I guarantee you, if you're on WooCommerce or WordPress or one of these kind of hosted sites like this, if you actually tacked all of these figures up, I guarantee you they're probably more than a Shopify subscription. So meanwhile, while you're doing all of that, your competitors are just miles ahead of you on Shopify. And the reason being is got not only the fact that they're reinvesting that into growth, they're doing things like adding features to their site, adding new channels, investing in ad spend. But then not only that, Shopify as a platform is so much further advanced when it comes to features. They are constantly investing in new features. And what's crazy about Shopify, given that it's a subscription, everything is covered under the subscription. Hosting, your domain, everything, security, support, everything is covered. If Shopify comes out with a new AI feature, it's just included. There's no upgrade cost to that. So that's to me is the kind of main reason there. A little bit more detail in terms of the cost of ownership, as we kind of said, is much lower on Shopify. We've gone through that kind of free, the kind of hidden cost of free platforms. Another one as well is code debt, which we call code debt, which is the cost to actually manage old custom code, and it kind of comes into that same thing as well, which is if you say, for example, you go to a custom developer and you say, I want to add a Klaviyo integration to my site, that might take them a couple of months or a couple of weeks. Meanwhile, Shopify, it's plug and play. So that time is huge. That saving of time is huge. The bigger thing when it comes to obviously money on the bottom line is the checkout. Shopify's checkout is is basically the reason why it wins without a doubt every single time. By nature of a Shopify migration, you should see an instant uplift in conversion in the checkout purely by getting access to that Shopify checkout. Another thing as well, which is kind of similar to that kind of timeline with devs, is does it take your team like 20 years to add a blog to the site because the backend is so slow? These are the kinds of things to be asking yourself. Again, Shopify, to me, the main thing when it comes to usability is quality of life. So quality of life is so important, and it's kind of a not a it's a qualitative kind of KPI because it's not something you can really measure. But to me, one of the most interesting piece of feedback I heard, we did a webinar last year with Intersport Elvery's head of online, Liam Lennon, and he said our team was just happier. They were happier coming into work on a Monday morning knowing that they didn't have to go into SAP Hybris and just break their head against the table every 5 minutes because it just wouldn't work. That they could just go into Shopify, upload products, manage orders, create a blog, create a new page. Just so simple. That to me, honestly, is it means so much because your team are not miserable and genuine. That means something. The final thing here with regards to this, the usability of Shopify is also the access and community. So Shopify, by nature of being the flagship product for e-commerce now, essentially, is that it has so much data and so much learning online, totally free to access, and the forums are amazing. Now, obviously, pair that with the power of AI, and you genuinely have such a great way to manage any issues you have without even necessarily the need for a technical intervention. A few other things with regards to what I'm calling real performance indicators. So we've obviously covered quality of life. The main thing is things that took hours should take minutes. And to me, when you have more time, especially your team, but also from a more senior level, when you're not putting out fires constantly, you have more time to actually sit down, strategize, get some breathing space, and think, okay, what's the direction of the site? Where are we going with this? Ownership and confidence, like I said, and we've talked covered the kind of ownership piece, but in terms of confidence, to me, this is a big one when it comes to like peak trading. I don't know how many stories I've heard of people on legacy platforms where Black Friday came around and their site crashed. Like that just can't happen. Like you spend so much money, so much time, resource for your site just to not be able to handle order volume because the servers have crashed. A non-issue on Shopify. Again, paring this all down. When you have a better site, a nicer site is going to create happier customers. Happier customers will purchase more, they'll share reviews, they'll take photos of the product, they will be happier and they'll have a greater reputation with your brand. And that generates UGC in and of itself, user generated content. So, a few things on how to be migration ready. And again, I'll preface this by saying we have a full migration webinar, which is like an hour in and of itself, talking about all of this, which we'll send a link to. We can watch it on demand. You'll get that in the follow up as well. So, it goes through way more detail as to how to prepare if you're considering one. But these are the kind of the main points here. So, this is the kind of first one, which is integrations or systems. If you have a bunch of old systems that just are not ready for an online operation or not ready for Shopify, it's probably worth looking at that and doing a review of your systems before considering a migration. We have, like I said before, we have a proprietary middleware called Orchestra where we cover any integration in theory from any system to any system, be that your EPOS system, your ERP system, your tills, whatever it might be. But it's a good idea to really see, like, review your actual current tech stack and is it really necessary? Second to that is your data. You don't want to bring a bunch of old crap data into a new platform. And also, the more data you have to bring into Shopify, the more expensive it's going to be to migrate that data. So definitely look at what you can keep, what needs to go, and trim the fat on your data for sure. Discovery. So we always say measure twice, cut once. A really strong agency is going to have a really strong discovery phase. If someone tells you, oh yeah, I'll just build your site straight away, that to me is a huge red flag. You need to have a really strong discovery phase to communicate what you want for a new site onto paper, and then get that done through what we call a scope of work document. So in our case, our project, the scope of work is essentially the project Bible and it carries the project all the way through to launch. Another one as well is resources. It takes time to migrate, especially at the beginning and at the end towards launch. To me, the biggest green flag, I recently was on a call with someone who said, I've designated someone on my team to be the online project manager. I'm like, great, that's exactly what you need. You need someone who has ownership of the online project. And then from there, you'll have a way more successful migration. Two final things. Digital transformation. We see this all the time with people whereby they say, "Oh, I'm changing EPOS system, and we're actually opening up a new store, and we're actually changing warehouse at the same time. And would you mind migrating our site?" And to me, that's like, how are you going to do that? You'll be dead. Like you'll literally just drop dead with fatigue. We call this the big bang launch. It's possible, but it genuinely requires a lot of work. So if you have plans to do any major digital transformation projects, it's probably not the best time to migrate, or vice versa. If you want to migrate, it's probably not the best time to also consider opening a new store at the same time because it does take your focus. Overall, reflect rigorously. So what we call this walking the shop. So physically, or sorry, digitally walk your store and see the kinds of things you want to keep, the kinds of things that are missing, and the kinds of things that can go. That will create a really great discovery phase moving into a project. So we have this migration calculator essentially, which should help those who are interested calculate the cost of staying put. So what you're basically missing out in terms of opportunity cost, the amount of money you could make if you were on a better platform, the estimated cost of a migration, and the estimated launch date, depending on when you would kick off for discovery. So if anyone here is interested in looking at that calculator, you can book a call with me and we can go through basically on a call live and plug your data in and kind of see what comes out of it. Which is a great way to kind of visualize and see, okay, this is right for us. Like I said, if you have any migration questions in general, it'll be kind of the last we speak of it today. Drop me a line. Drop me a line. My email is brad@studio49.com. But don't feel like you have to jump off now. The kinds of e-commerce tips in general that I'm going to be bringing up now in a minute are actually totally platform agnostic. So you should be able to get some benefits out of just looking at the kinds of things you can do today, this week, etc. So the next one is redesign, retheme. So this is kind of that middle of the road track. Now, obviously, in this case, I am specifically talking about Shopify stores who've been on Shopify for a number of years. But like I said, the tips that we're going through should be relevant for all. To me, the first thing, and it's what we hear about all the time. So we ask clients all the time what their USPs are. What's your unique selling point? What makes you unique? And 9 times out of 10, the first thing we hear is, oh, customer service. To me, customer service is an absolute bare minimum that every single retailer in the country needs to have. It's not a unique selling point. In reality, it's a complete opposite. To me, what you need, and I see certain businesses doing this really, really well, but what you need is a voice. You need something that's going to put you outside of just selling that Bosch dishwasher. 50,000 other people in the country are selling Bosch dishwashers. And if you want to engage with buyers, people who just want to get the cheapest, fastest thing, it's a race to the bottom. But if you really want to grow and be a brand and have a vision and be kind of a place that people aspire to go to, having a voice is super strong. And it's not really something that's easy to even describe. And we all know what it is. You go into a business, you go into a store, you can feel it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that kind of spark. And to me, when you have a really strong voice, that earns you media, it earns you PR, it earns you news. Um, Doubling that up again, if you add a mission or values behind that, that also elevates that further. Now, when I say mission, I don't mean, say, sustainability, yawn. I'm talking about something that is directly connected to the context of the people you're selling to and make a mission statement. For example, our mission is to be the most transformative agency in Irish retail e-commerce. It's simple, it can be said in 3 seconds, but it gets the point across. Pair that with a really, really strong e-commerce setup, and you can tell that story with that voice really well. So a theme can only do as well as the brand itself. Obviously, product catalog depth is really important. Loads of people can get access to thousands of SKUs. That's not really that difficult in your kind of sphere. You have that now. How do you tell the story with a really strong theme and a really strong catalog of products? On top of that, content. This to me is such an underutilized piece on people's sites. Um, there's a few tests. Go look at your top 10 product pages or your top 10 most visited pages, content, whatever it might be. The top 10 of anything. It could be your product pages, it could be your content on your blogs, whatever it is. If that data hasn't been changed in 3 months, 6 months, a year, there's a huge opportunity there to update that content. Similarly, if you go to your blog and the most recent blog was like 6 months ago, you just know you're not relevant to your audience in the given moment. Nowadays, there's honestly no excuses with the power of AI to generate content. But what I will say is, we always recommend people to use AI to brainstorm. Never just copy and paste the output of ChatGPT into your site. It's a major ick for customers when they see it's so obvious now. Everyone can tell when something's made by AI. So 100% use AI to generate the ideas, but write it in that voice. The final thing as well, photography. This is kind of, it is more, I don't want to say advanced, but it is something that is obviously a little bit less accessible, but so much more accessible than it used to be. And when I talk about photography, I'm talking about product photography. You can have the most stunning theme in the whole wide world, but if your photography is A, first of all, like low res, big red flag, but second of all, just really generic, constantly just white background photography, you're missing a beat. I find that department stores do this really well, and a lot of fashion retailers do this really well. They take the products from the supplier and they put it in a context that resonates with their audience. So they might be, we're going off to Marbella to do the folk photo shoot, or we're doing the Christmas photo shoot. Like we have some clients who are doing their Christmas photo shoots in July, and they're doing it in an Irish context. I'll give you a good example. We all have experienced this. If you've grown up in Ireland watching the telly and an ad comes on and the person speaking in that ad on the telly has a British accent, or worse yet, it's like that weird dub from an international like ad, instant ick. You don't care. You lose trust instantly with that brand and with that ad. This is what photography can do. It can put your product in an Irish context. Now I know you might come back and say, bloody hell, we're a furniture brand. We can't get every single couch, every single table into a house and take photos of it, like 100%. But some people are doing it, and they are the ones who are on that next level. Same thing with like dishwashers and whatever it might be. Similarly, I'm not gonna recommend to use AI as such, but it is a potential there to put AI in context. Put your products in a context through generated backgrounds. Shopify have a built-in ability to do this, but that would be my kind of tip there. My final piece on the photography as well is there's probably a junior on your team who would be more than delighted to add photography as a skill to their CV. And these days you can get a really solid professional camera for like 500 quid. So genuinely something to consider. So away from a differentiation and more into actual, let's say, top tips as to things you can actually do, I try to make them as configurable as possible, meaning that you yourself, business owner, ecom manager, whoever you are, you can do this yourself without major need of help from an agency or from a developer. The overarching theme for this in general is mobile first, and this is less so a tip, more so almost like a paradigm shift. I know that everyone says mobile first, mobile first, mobile first, but this is me saying literally every single thing you do, you need to check whatever the output of it is, check mobile first. And if you're not doing that, again, you're missing a beat. 90% of traffic comes from mobile now. 90%. And you know where that 10% is? The other 10%? It's probably us as retailers on the site checking products. So 100% of your traffic is more than likely starting at mobile. For context, my wife and I, we bought a bunch of furniture recently for the house, and we did all on mobile, all online, didn't even go in person. So there are people out there who will do that, and it's clearly shown with the data. So everything you do, mobile first, for sure. These are a few kind of simple tips, and then I'll go into a few other examples of tips. So here's a great one, banners. I don't know how many times I've gone onto an e-commerce site of three verticals, three retailers of the same vertical, let's say three electricals, and they all have the exact same banner from the supplier. That to me is, again, super easy way to differentiate is make your own banners. Again, so accessible. You can get free version of Canva, Adobe Express, whatever it is, and put your product, remove the background, put it in, and get it again in an Irish context. Add my CTA. Really simple way to make that homepage first impression really pop and differentiate you from other people. Top performing products. This has kind of been mentioned a couple times throughout the webinar, but look at whatever the top 10% of your products are in terms of sell through, like what are your best performing products, and make sure that those are merchandised to the absolute max. The SEO descriptions are absolutely top tier. The images are high quality. And again, goes back to that photography thing. Even if you just invest in photography in your top 10 products, that will elevate that. Add those, tag those as top performers, add it to a top performers collection, and you're doing really well because then you can send traffic to that and you just know, they're good. You know people like them because they're your top performers. And again, like I said, start small, the top 5 products, top 10 products. That's a really great thing you can do and it doesn't kill you. And you're not thinking, oh, I've got to change all of my image, I've got to change all of my descriptions. Work through it bit by bit. Final one here is simplifying your messaging. Now, this is kind of a general tip, but like anytime you want to get someone to do something, you need to have a CTA. So your homepage should have a CTA. If it's dig down into XYZ collection, look at our sale. And if that CTA doesn't have a button, again, you're missing a beat. Make sure it's a button, some kind. And what's handy about banners, oftentimes banners are URL clickable, like they're just links essentially, and you can edit a banner as a graphic. It doesn't even have to be a button. You can edit a button as a graphic into the design, and people will click that thinking it's the button. There's things you can do there. Simplify the messaging. So 1 to 2 words max. If it's things like inquire, add things like that. Simplify your messaging. So that's a kind of handy thing that you can just do day one. Few other tips. Delivery information. Again, super easy. It's basically just text, but this one is a huge one. So this is what we basically recommend for all of our clients is to put delivery information and any kind of key relevant information, good opportunity for USPs as well, right next to your CTAs. Obviously, in this case, it's the product detail page right next to the add to cart. You have the ability to see, oh, free delivery on orders over €70. If I'm adding a pair of shoes to my bag that's €65, 100% I'm going to go and I'm going to find something for a tenner and add it to my bag to up that AOV. So have your messaging right next to CTAs, and that can apply to anything, even if it's, entering forms, drilling down, having clear messaging as to what your USPs and what obviously your values are right next to CTAs is going to give you great lift. And again, super simple things, just text next to a CTA. And this one is called this wayfinding, essentially, or merchandising. So this is an example of Heavens. So on every collection page in Heavens, they have the ability to have these pills on their collection. So in this case, they have the entertainment collection here, and then below that, right below that, before you even see a product, you see these wayfinder pills. And to me, let's say for example, you've got 3,000 SKUs, and I'm looking for a 55-inch OLED Panasonic TV. You need to give them the ability to visually navigate through your site through Wayfinder. So that if that's the entertainment category, we go down, okay, yeah, TV. And then when you're in the TV collection, you got three pills on the top, small, medium, large TV, or whatever it might be. You guys know your product. You know the ways in which people can go into subcategories. Obviously, a really strong search and a really strong filter are going to be classics, but these are things that you can implement very quickly that help visually merchandise the site and bring people in, turning that 3,000 list of SKUs into the top 50 SKUs that are actually relevant to what I'm looking for. So that's that navigation by intent. Homepage fold. This is just maybe even just a general homepage tips. Again, this is assuming changing the homepage isn't going to be take you 2 weeks, and I do apologize, and I'm sorry for your loss if it does take 2 weeks to change anything on your homepage. But this is a great example. This is Tony Keeley's. So again, to me, when we talk about the fold, The fold is anything that's below your very first screen. So if you load a desktop screen, anything that's below the bottom of that screen you have that is not visible is below the fold. Same thing on mobile. Obviously, with mobile, I'm often thinking within the first swipe. So, say for example, you land on the homepage, and within one swipe, you want to see a product. If you're not showing a product, and better yet, with the ability to add to cart or quick view or add to your wish list some kind of CTA, again, you're missing a beat. So obviously in this case, Tony Keeley's, they're kind of bringing this up a level because immediately when you land on their site, they've got wayfinding straight away. They've got prams, they've got nursery, they've got car seats. Straight away, you're able to click in and shop by intent. And then obviously within one swipe, they've got a product and they've got a price. So again, these should be things that you should be able to simply add to your site with these. So these are a few Shopify specific quick wins for my Shopify heads here in the room. So the first one is the announcement bar. This is totally free. Any theme in the world can get this. It's basically that purple line on the top of Heavens there, and it's a great space, really low real estate where you can add whatever messaging is important to you at that given moment. Or it can be obviously evergreen. It can be things like your free shipping threshold, the fact that you're Irish owned and operated, whatever sale is happening. Obviously, in the case of Heavens, they have this €2,000 in prizes people want to guarantee. You click on that, you get more information, be some kind of lead gen towards their email list or something like that. Really super easy thing you can do in the theme customizer. This next one is Shopify Flow. So Shopify Flow, I think one of the questions we got, like one of the pre-questions we got was like, what's one free app that every Shopify store should have? I think Shopify Flow is definitely a strong contender for this. Shopify Flow, for those that don't know, is essentially a workflow builder. It's an automation tool. It starts from a trigger and has some kind of actions following that trigger. The example that you see on screens here is basically when an order is created, check if the order is of a certain amount and assign or change Shopify a VIP tier, bronze, silver, gold, or whatever. Super simple concept here. That can be applied to also customers' LTV. So there's plenty of ways to do it. There's a couple of other ideas here for Shopify Flow. First one being the churn detector. So let's say, for example, someone has been a super loyal customer for many years, and then all of a sudden they're kind of not purchasing, not as often, or just haven't purchased in the last couple of months. You can assign that through Shopify Flow, and then send them out an automated email through Shopify, or even just get a list of customers and give them a buzz and say, "Hey, we haven't heard from you for a while. Is everything okay?" And then inverse to that as well is, your absolute top 10% spenders, get a list of your top 50 spenders and send them an email, like a direct email, not a marketing email, and a Gmail email from the owner, the business owner, and say, "Hi Mary, we noticed you're in one of our top most valuable clients. We really appreciate your business. Thank you so much. Would you like, would you have 5 minutes of your time to give us some feedback in your business?" Bring that up a level. Again, these are all simple, low tech things that anyone can do with a Shopify site. Bring it up a notch. If they've ordered from you, you have their address. You could send them a little hamper to say thanks. If they've spent, thousands of euros with you as a business, hundreds of euros with you business, and they're a high LTV, that if you give them a hamper in the mail, that person will be a customer for life, guaranteed. So quick, easy things that don't require massive amounts of tech or massive amounts of innovation. Another one here is the Shopify checkout. I think the Shopify checkout, aside from the account page, the Shopify checkout is the most underutilized page on Shopify. So this is the order status page. This is immediately what people will see when they order from you in Shopify. And by standard, this is just sample data. By standard, you'll get your contact information and your payment information, and then you get a total of your order and a kind of summary of your items. What you don't get, which is added on here, is in this case you got tracking information. You got a call to action to get some points by writing a review. You can buy your order again. This one is great, which is a kind of a call out where it's saying how many points you've ordered as a result from this, how many points you've earned as a result of the order, and the kind of tier you've been kind of upgraded to. I think this is great. So what's great about the checkout in Shopify is if you go into the theme customizer, you go up to the top and you find your order status page. On the left hand side, I guarantee you, if you have any number of apps on your Shopify store, I guarantee you there's going to be tick boxes there where there's apps that are just simply not turned on. Say for example, Klaviyo. If you have the Klaviyo app on your store, go into your order status page, go to Klaviyo, turn it on, and it'll give you the option to opt into your newsletter straight away there. Again, super easy things. Anyone can do it. Granted, you have the apps there. I think the final one here, yeah. So chat widget. Now I say a lot of people, if you don't have a chat box or some kind of customer support box, again, you are falling behind. Get one, especially if you're on Shopify. Shopify Inbox is free. These are literally free things you can get as a part of your Shopify subscription. Shopify Inbox is a little chat widget there you can see here. It gives you the ability to also connect to other platforms such as like Facebook Messenger and things like that. So all of your messaging can come into the one place. Again, super easy thing to add to the site. It takes 5 minutes and you can start speaking to people and you can get like, straight onto your phone and reply straight away. Again, a lot of people probably have a chatbot, but if you don't, probably a good time to get one on there. Super easy thing to add to the site. So those are kind of the tips, mostly out of the way in reality. Next up, we're going to be speaking about the kind of optimize track. But I suppose just to really reiterate, the two main things that we're going to be recommending in terms of a next move, if you've been on Shopify for a number of years, if you've been sitting on an old theme, and you're unsure as to what to do next, or you're unsure how to improve performance, or the site feels slow, there's a good chance you probably need to retheme. I'm going to quickly jump out here and show you. This is a demo Shopify account we have for ourselves here. Here's a really quick thing to do that you can do literally today. If you're not happy with the performance of your Shopify store, you feel like the theme is a bit slow or a bit old and you're not too sure how to check, if you go to your sales channels, online store themes, scroll down here. Now, this one is the most active theme on this demo store. It's actually a custom one, but you'll see here, right here, this one here, Tinker, for example. This has a little blue light, so it's like literally making it as obvious as it can be. You find the version, it'll be on like Tinker 1.0, whatever it is. Whatever your current version is, I normally, honestly, the best thing to do is just copy and paste that into ChatGPT and it will tell you what Shopify OS it's on. So we've been, over the last couple of years, we have been migrating our existing Shopify clients onto the new Shopify 2.0 OS. I think the vast majority of our clients are now on a new theme. And basically, what they did was they created a new OS operating system. And those who are not on Shopify 2.0, they're losing out access to certain apps and things like that. It's a totally different way in which that you build on Shopify and the way you customize on Shopify. So that's a quick way to check. If you're on a 1.0 theme, you should definitely retheme. Another level on top of that, which is kind of more about that differentiation and that brand piece, is redesigning. So redesigning is kind of what you would do as well as retheming. So you can retheme and just pick a theme essentially and just build it on Shopify. But what we often find as well is if you find that differentiation or branding or positioning in the market is also your challenge, a redesign can also do really well. So we recently, I think last year, we redesigned Rock's Jewelers. So similarly, we kind of covered both bases, the retheme and the redesign at once. And basically, not only did we like elevate the experience, we obviously brought it up to scratch in terms of best practice. We also did a few things with regards to branding. We kind of cleaned up their logo, changed some fonts and things like that to really elevate to the next level. So obviously, I'm going through everything at such a high level, but if anything here that you're curious to learn more about, we have way more examples. I can kind of go through it in a bit more detail on a call offline. So again, if you feel like you have been doing everything on Shopify, and you're not sure what to do next, the next piece is probably for you. But what I will say is we do conversion rate optimization work for anyone. We do it for people who are not on Shopify. We'll do it for people who are on an old theme that are considering a retheme. Sometimes optimization workshop can actually help justify a retheme because you're saying, oh yeah, there are so many pain points. So we'll go through this in a little bit in a little bit now. So just kind of, I'm going to be saying CRO a lot. So I'm going to explain what that is and why it's beneficial. So CRO simply means conversion rate optimization. It's basically getting someone to do the thing that you want them to do on your site. It's that simple. In kind of Studio 49 terms, I'd almost kind of consider it like the merch of your site, in the same way you have product placement or whatever it might be. So, merchandising the site through data-driven insights, essentially. So why is CRO really good? I'll explain now. But to preface, I suppose, when I'm speaking about CRO, I'm very much speaking in the context of our CRO audit offering, which we offer, and I'll go into a little bit more detail now. So a CRO audit doesn't care. Doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your business, doesn't care about all of your ethics and all of your morals and how great of a person you are. When we build a site, it's kind of our baby, you know what I mean? And a CRO audit really doesn't care about that. They will give you the data purely as it is. So the kinds of data that we'll typically look at when we're doing a CRO audit is mostly behavioral data. The sources of that are typically some kind of heat mapping tool like a Hotjar or a Mouseflow. So you'll get user recordings of rage points and click points. You'll get heat maps as to like where are the kind of parts, cold and hot parts on your site. And then, of course, we'll dig into your typical analytics like Google Analytics and whatever you might be using. And what this does is it gives everyone confidence and an unbiased way of assessing your site's kind of issues as they currently stand. On top of that, and to me, this is probably the real benefit of a CRO audit, is kind of learning what you don't know. So obviously, we all know what's wrong with our sites. We can kind of have a click through and be like, oh yeah, I'm not really too happy with that, or not too sure. So often people will come to me and say, oh, could you change that thing for me? I'm like, why? What's the reason why? It's not led by data. It's not led by real shoppers who are actually going on your site. The CRO audit will find things you never even knew existed. One of my favorite feedbacks I hear from the CRO audit is, I didn't even realize there was that much more that we could do on our site. So that to me is one of the biggest values of doing CRO work. A good CRO audit will give you a list of 150,000 things that you can do on your site, which is great. That's just more work on your plate. But a really, really good CRO audit will give you a prioritized list of like the top 10 things you can do, the impact that you can do them, and how quickly they should be able to be done. So that to me is like the whole kind of suite of it in one thing. We recently onboarded and kind of resourced specifically into this area. So last year, Dan Cho joined our team. So he's a senior e-commerce consultant. Again, he covers all of our kind of e-commerce consulting work across the company, but he also basically leads the CRO audits. I ran this kind of idea by him, and I asked him if he had any of his own tips that he'd kind of offer, as well as what I've kind of been speaking about today. So there's some really good ideas in here, and I want to quickly go through them. So, digital assets gap, I think this is really cool. So he's calling this kind of a content gap analysis. So saying run a content gap analysis on your top selling categories and products. Prioritize optimization using a three-tier content framework, advanced, medium, basic. Again, it comes back to that same thing, which is you don't have to do everything all at once. Pick the top pieces of your content and look at those. See what's missing, see what needs more work. This next one I love as well, the product page experience. Product images drive engagement 100%. Test galleries across devices to fix zoom, quality, and interaction issues. This is great. Testing how your PDP and what galleries feel like across different devices is a really great idea. Obviously, we probably are optimizing for iPhone, let's be honest, but testing across different devices is a great idea. This is another one, and it kind of comes in with the kind of chatbot thing I was mentioned earlier about tidy up floating icons and app widgets that disrupt browsing. This one is such a pet peeve of mine. You go onto a mobile site and they have the accessibility icon, they have their cookies icon, and they have their chatbot icon, and it takes up like half of the screen. Worse yet is when that happens and it's actually blocking the add to cart button. It's like you're never going to get conversion if that's the case. And what's great about these is that what you can do is with the accessibility icon widget and with the cookie widget, you can remove them entirely and actually change them as to URLs in the footer menu. You can just add them as URLs in the footer, and when you click that, we can use like JavaScript and kind of Ajax to pop up those pop-ups, but they don't need to live on the site. Also, you don't want your cookies there the whole time. You don't want to give anyone a reason to opt out of cookies. Once they've opted in, if they've accepted, get rid of it. Get it out of their face. Another thing as well, which kind of to me, I'll add to this is I often find that the chat bubbles on sites are huge. And I know it's probably app dependent, but you can probably reduce them. If you imagine, I'm not sure if anyone here is a social media user. I imagine we have a couple of social media users in the room. If anyone here uses Instagram, go onto your phone, Instagram, do it now. Check whatever app. The UI is tiny, unless you've got like a visual issue. The UI is tiny, so you can make those bubbles really small, and again, it opens up that kind of real escape on the site. So great tip there from Dancho. Navigation accessibility, ensuring that key hub and landing pages are easy to reach on mobile. So users coming from ads or emails should find them, return to them easily, make the footer menu accessible. Really great tips. Love that. Love this one, lead capture, using non-intrusive email capture, but I think better yet, which is the idea of testing. So doing like A/B testing with regards to timing, placement, even the design itself. That's a great thing. And again, it's low code. It's something that you can do. If you use Klaviyo for emails, just do two, see which one performs better across this course of 2 weeks. Again, it's data led. Improving the footer sign up block with a clear offer and benefits. That's a really great one as well. Obviously, everyone has that footer, which is just enter your email and click go. But having again that messaging right next to the CTA, really good idea. So yeah, thanks, Dansha, for those tips. Here's a quick kind of case study, or more almost like just kind of a description of a project that we recently did. So we did this CRO audit for Heavens recently. We migrated Heavens from AB Commerce to Shopify last year, and they're an amazing team. They're great guys, a small team, but they do amazing work. So massive credit to them to the growth that they're getting and the kind of recognition that they're getting in the industry. But I suppose they came to us because they were growing. They no doubt were growing, but they just weren't sure what that next move was. They wanted to know what are the gaps, what's the kind of next thing. And again, it comes back to the whole thing of like what's happening that I can't see. So it takes about 6 weeks. All in all, when we do a CRO audit, we normally get those analytical tools on your site for about 3 weeks. So if it's Hotjar or Mouseful or whatever it is, to gather that data, and then it takes about 3 weeks to obviously prep the presentation and do the work there. So in this case, we did a Hotjar UX journey and heat mapping analysis. There was a key focus on mobile, which is obviously should be every time, and then obviously best practice. So not only are these audits in general super good because they're backed by data, but also Danjo himself, he comes from a massive background of experience across e-commerce across Europe, and just looking through the audits, genuinely, I'm blown away almost every time I look through an audit with the kind of value that comes and just the kind of ideas that he has. So really good stuff there. And there's a 100 point CRO checklist. So it's a 100 point checklist that's done across pages on your site. And then obviously the list of high priority items. That's all to me is the biggest thing is what can I do about it and what are the 10 most important things. So I'm really happy with this. We have seen unprecedented demand for our CRO audits. I think Dancho has booked like well into November, well into December at this stage. We're currently operating on a 6 week lead time to even just get Dancho in the calendar. So 100% if you're interested, give me an email, book quick. The feedback we get for the audits has been good, and every single time, like we're kind of saying this internally now, we're almost looking forward to kind of presentation day now because we just know the value that it's providing to clients and their reactions has just been so great. So yeah, great feedback there. I won't read it out loud. You can read it yourself in your own time or when it's downloaded after the fact. Again, just to kind of preface, the level of work that goes into these audits is kind of mad. Like it's like the deliverables are oftentimes like 80 plus slides. And like I said, I've looked at these slides and genuinely every single slide is chock full of value. So they're 100% worth the while, worth the investment. And honestly, like if I was in a retailer and I saw this, I'd have probably 2 years, if not, um, of a roadmap literally planned out for me. You know, the whole idea was what's my next step? If you did an audit, genuinely, you would have what your next step is for the next year at least. So yeah, great deal of work that kind of comes into them. We will be sending out kind of a mini version of the CRO checklist. So like I said, we have this 100 point checklist. And we will send out a kind of a copy of kind of a mini version of it. Again, it's more of a taster to kind of give you some idea of what kind of recommendations we're looking at, but also should give you a very quick kind of sense and health check on your current site. So that'll be included in the follow-up email as well. So to kind of wrap it all up, I suppose, migrate. If you're not on Shopify, get on Shopify. It's that simple. To me, what is an immediate thing that you could do? I'd review your existing site and I'd take a really strong, hard look internally, like what do you want out of your online? If online is like 1 to 5% of your revenue, there's an opportunity there to up that to 20 or 30%. If you have been on Shopify for a couple of years and you're like kind of just maybe just a bit kind of old and a bit tired, definitely time to probably either consider a retheme or a redesign, especially if it's not on OS 2.0. And again, an immediate thing you could do like straight away would be check your apps. Go into your app. I think it's in the settings and it's like installed apps, and you'll be able to see what's on. And if there's loads, if there's even 5 apps you remove, you'll speed up your site straight away. Again, if you are doing everything right, and you're still not seeing that growth, and you're kind of banging your head against the table, like what am I doing wrong here? A zero audit will really give that direction and kind of clarify what it is you could be doing on the site to improve conversion, and it's measurable. So that is us for the kind of key takeaways. Like I said, everyone stayed on mostly, so you'll all be entered into the draw. Well done. You probably had a lot of coffee probably to get through that, so well done. A few things before we kind of wrap up. A few pieces of news. So we have most recently, as of this month, been promoted to a new tier of Shopify partner. So we're now a Shopify Premier partner, and it is a big deal for us. Like I said, we are platform agnostic, but what this is huge recognition of the work, the massive work that we have done across all of our clients on Shopify over the last couple of years. Obviously, it's great recognition, it's great kudos to us, but in a practical sense, it actually unlocks a lot more for us as partners and the kinds of things we can offer downstream to our clients. So it gives us much better access to Shopify in terms of the kind of preview of innovations that they're doing, the kinds of things they're bringing to the market, and the kind of the developments as they happen. And then also we do get a better access of support and people within Shopify. So we're really delighted for that. Yeah, really happy with that. REI awards. I'm not sure if there's any REI awards, people who entered the awards or attending the awards this year. But we will be there. We've been named once again as a finalist for the Supplier of the Year. We won it in 2023, so we're hoping maybe we'll get it this year. Who knows? And just generally, we advocate for our clients to get awards. You know, sometimes it can feel like a bit of pageantry, a bit of a kind of show offy sense, but genuinely, like everyone works so hard in retail and especially online, and it's just great recognition. It's a great night out for the teams. So yeah, we always advocate for our clients to enter the awards, and many of our clients have been shortlisted as finalists this year. Like I said, we'll be there. I'll be there in the night. So if you are attending, best of luck, and do come say hello to me. It'd be great to chat. Finally, here, Studio 49 Conference 2026. So, for those who don't know, we run a conference every year. It's an amazing day of content. Genuinely, like the conference next year will be my fourth conference that I've been at. And every single year, it gets better and better every single time. So, what it is basically a day full of keynotes, content for both ourselves, our team across e-commerce, technical integrations, migrations, marketing, design, and then also we get keynotes from our partners. Also, typically speaking, our company director, who's got a podcast called Functional and Fabulous, he'll also do a live podcast in the day. There's fireside chat, so it's a day full of great content. Every year it gets bigger, and this year it'll be bigger again. One thing I will say is it's going to be bigger and brighter this year. So any who was there last year, we'll be able to resonate with that one. So if you subscribe to our newsletter, or follow us on LinkedIn, you'll definitely get updates. We normally open it out to registration. So the way it works is it's typically invite only, meaning that you can register, and then when we try to prioritize getting retailers in the room because it's for retailers instead of filling it with a bunch of basically people who are trying to sell stuff. So yeah, that's the kind of conference coming up next year. But a benchmark probably early to mid-April, just for context. So yeah, if you have that in the calendar, definitely be great to have you. Thanks for your time. That QR code will open you up to a meeting booking with me. I'm happy to talk at any length of any of those tracks. Obviously, there's different kind of journeys there. So by all means, please reach out to me if you're interested in any of those things. So like I said, we will pick the winner of the 2 hour strategy session with Jer. We'll email them directly, just to kind of keep it GDPR compliant. So yeah, hopefully in the next day you'll get a follow up. We'll have the recording of today's webinar, the deck, any downloadables. I'm also going to get links to other webinars. We have a Black Friday webinar, which is really good as well. Just again, hopefully give you as much value as today as well. So really appreciate your time. Yeah, thanks for staying on to the very end, and yeah, have a great day. Thanks, guys.